With this here, this ain't about being flashy. This is game day, son. It's only about one thing. Getting that W. That's the only thing that matters right now. Boy, are you ready?
The past is the past, you know? It's a new day, bro. My day. You gotta do it now.
Blindside Fantasy Football Podcast back again for another episode. Going to be going over our rankings this week. It's Marcus Katkin with Matt Dugal as always. But before we get into our rankings and talking about them a little bit, which will be up on the site probably a little bit later today, just want to welcome 3 new members to the Blindside Football team. Ty Miller, you can follow him at Ty_in_STL. Charles Murphy, you can follow him at @thatmurph. And Martin Brooks, you can follow him at @JesusProtectMe. All 3 are great guys. You know, they've written for a bunch of fantasy football sites already, so they have a lot of great experience under them. And we're really happy to have them on the Blindside team and can't wait to start seeing their stuff. But let's jump into our rankings here. Matt and I did our football rankings here with standard scoring in mind. We didn't do PPR or Dynasty or anything like that. But you will find those on the website. We do have a couple of PPR rankings, as well as some Dynasty rankings that will be up shortly. So let's get into it. Let's start off with quarterbacks. Matt, anything with the quarterbacks that jumped out at you?
I'm sure everybody's wondering how I'm doing, because usually that's what you do is you ask me how I'm doing. I'm doing well.
No one cares about that. I skipped over that because no one cares.
I'm excited actually about the first rankings that we've done here. It's our maiden voyage, and like you said, first one we're doing tonight. We've done it with the Football Duke and FF Counselor, and you said you're going to get it up probably tonight, tomorrow. You thinking?
Yeah, probably tonight or tomorrow.
Awesome.
Russell Clay at Russell Clay 17. He's going to be giving some PPR rankings as well.
Awesome.
At Ty in STL, Ty Miller that I mentioned earlier, he's going to give us some PPR rankings. And then Martin Brooks, the other writer that I mentioned earlier, he's going to give us some Dynasty rankings. So we're going to have a lot of good rankings up there. So a little bit for everybody. You know, no IDP right now because I mean, let's be honest. I don't think too many people play IDP. It's not quite the mainstream yet, but definitely something to take a look at and get things going for you in this early off season to fantasy football. So Matt, what quarterbacks? You know, what jumped out at you? I mean, I guess the first thing that kind of jumped out at me early in the rankings. I like the running quarterbacks because they get me a lot of points everywhere they can go. I know you like the running quarterbacks because, I mean, we got Colin Kaepernick pretty much the same, Michael Vick, pretty much the same. I was surprised to see that you had Russell Wilson and RG3 about 3 or 4 spots behind me on both of them. Can you explain that to me a little bit? What was you thinking there?
Actually looking at the other rankings, Russell might be a little lower. Then maybe I should have had him. Griffin is just a case of so much uncertainty right now. It's going to be a lot more clarity come, closer to the preseason as camp goes forward, and to get a good idea of what he's going to be. And if you're hearing reports that he's healthy, which you really are, I mean, I guess he's been doing really well, then he's going to jump up for me too. So right now with Griffin, it's just the uncertainty. With Wilson, maybe I could have moved him up a little bit, but I just, I really like some of the guys ahead of him. For example, Vic, I think, we've talked about my article, what I think he's going to be doing this year. I'm excited for what Vic's going to be doing. Tony Romo, he just got a lot of money. I think he's going to want to really live up to that and have a real good season. Obviously, Luck taking the next step in his development. So there's just a lot of good quarterbacks out there. So, I mean, putting him at 12 is no slight. Maybe he could have been a little higher, but it's tough for me to even pick one of those guys to move him ahead of.
Yeah, I mean, Wilson, you obviously have him, as a starter in a 12-team league. I had him a little bit higher at 9. I just think his running ability, his passing really came on second half of last year. And obviously picking up Percy Harvin doesn't hurt at all. That's definitely going to help him in the short game. Pretty much an extension of the run right there. RG3 for me, I mean, I understand there's issues about his health. Even if he misses 3 or 4 games, I mean, you're playing for the playoffs, you're playing for the championship. He's going to be around then. He was the number 1 fantasy quarterback for most of last year. If I can get him as I got him ranked number 8 right now. If I can get him as the 8th quarterback off the board, I'm very, very happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as big a fan as anybody about him, but like I said, the big thing for me is just the uncertainty today. It's so early. I'm making rankings as of right now, so that's just kind of
Sure, yeah, I hear you. It's still really, really early. Moving around a little bit more too here. Phillip Rivers, I seem to like him a little bit more than you. I don't know if that's just my little bit of a love for Phillip Rivers this year, or if you're a little bit down on him. For me, I think Phillip Rivers started to come on the second half of last year. I think with a new coach in town, it's going to rejuvenate that offense. It's going to cause him to throw a little bit more. Denary Alexander really came on last year. He gets Keenan Allen. Hopefully he gets a healthy Vincent Brown back. What do you think? Were you down on him, or do you think, you have him ranked at number 21? You think that's where he should be?
Just quickly, actually, looking up the rankings here, I got him one spot ahead of behind where he finished last year. It's kind of funny to see Phillip so far down the rankings there, but I agree with you. The weapons are coming. Vincent Brown should be healthy this year, and there were a lot of good reports that he's got some real potential. Not a big guy at 5'11", but can really go up and get the ball. And it's just more a case of, again, there's a lot of the NFL. It's just going to that passing, big numbers for the quarterback. So
yeah, I think maybe that's maybe just my rankings a little bit. Then going back to what he used to do for San Diego, and I think he kind of returns to that a little bit.
Yep.
Jay Cutler too. It's another one we kind of disagreed on. You got him at 17. I got him at 24. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little bit coming around to him. I'm not a Jay Cutler fan because he throws a lot of interceptions, and just I don't see him as a very good quarterback. The only thing that I think kind of saves him a little bit is Mark Trestman likes to throw the ball. The last time Mark Trestman was in the NFL, Rich Gannon was averaging 39 pass attempts a game. So there's definitely going to be the volume there. So I think maybe I'm a little bit low on him, and I'll probably move him up as the season gets a little bit closer. What is your thought on Jay Cutler and Mark Trestman together?
I'm excited about it, and the big thing with Jay for me that just makes it tough for me to really drop him too far is he's got one of the best wide receivers in football. He can make anybody good.
But nobody past that. Nobody.
Alshon Jeffrey, I think, is going to take a big step forward. I really like what he has the potential to be. And he was playing hurt quite a bit last year. He was injured quite a bit, missed some games. I think Alshon's going to be a nice addition this year to get him healthy, get him a year under his belt in the books, and I'm kind of excited about Jay. I mean, I got him at 17, so not anybody I'm taking to start, but maybe he's a guy that if you're getting Robert Griffin, you finish up late and you get a Jay Cutler to play those first maybe 4 to 6 weeks if you need him.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, I might be just a little bit down on him given the Trestman and what he does with his quarterbacks. I just don't see the weapons around him that really make me want him in fantasy.
Yeah.
Like I said, maybe it comes around a little bit for me. Matt Schaub, another guy that I was very surprised on. We did a top 25 quarterbacks, and I was the only one out of the 4 rankers, 4 standard scoring, that didn't have him in my top 25. They don't throw the ball enough for me. It's the Arian Foster and Ben Tate show. Andre Johnson sprinkled in, a little bit of Owen Daniels. I mean, you think DeAndre Hopkins is the difference that makes him, that fantasy guy that breaks the top 25 for you?
No. I mean, if you look at my ranks with Andre Johnson too, you'll see I'm the only one out of the top 10 who ranked Andre out of the top 10. I don't see big things for this passing game. That's obvious, but 22, it's not like I'm touting him to have a big year. Actually, it's funny to look at the other rankings. 2 of the other guys ranked him at 22 as well. You've got some younger guys that you vaulted ahead of him a little bit. Jake Locker, I'm sure you assume you're expecting him to make that next jump, given the weapons that he has around him. EJ Manuel, he's a guy I know you like out of Florida State. For me, it's just a situation where he might not even be starting the season. So, it's not that I like Matt Schaub. Definitely an offense that's looking to run the ball, but I think he's a little bit better than a few of those guys. But really, roll the dice on EJ, Jake Locker type. You might hit on them. I don't think you really got too much of a shot to hit on Schaub.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are definitely guys way, further down in our top 25, obviously. Speaking of Manuel, I had him at 20, and I was the only ranker to rank him in the top 25. And the only thing with Manuel that I like there is, we've seen the running quarterbacks make an immediate impact in the NFL and in fantasy football. And I think at least there's a chance that he does that this year, especially with the weapons that they drafted around him, that we talked about a little bit, on that Sports Chronicles radio network show that we were on a little bit earlier this week. I think there's a chance that he makes that jump, and that's why I kind of put him in my top 25. I think it's too early to just discredit all the rookie quarterbacks this year after we saw what they all did last year. There's that chance, and that's why I'm putting him ahead of guys like Alex Smith, Ryan Tannehill, guys like that you know what they are. You know what they're going to give you. Nothing spectacular. Give me the lottery ticket in manual and let's see what we can do with it. Moving on to running backs, though, couple of guys in the top 10 here that we obviously, I think, completely flip-flopped on here.
Right.
Ray Rice, you have him at 3, I have him at 9, and then Trent Richardson, I have him at 5, and you got him at 9. So you can see those two guys are almost flip-flop for us completely. Talk to me about Ray Rice. What do you like in Ray Rice that puts him in your top 3?
I think Ray was playing hurt last year. He's just does it all, running the football, catching the ball. You really can leave him in there in all situations. Not that Trent's really a guy you have to take out, although they some reason did a lot of times last year with the hell was that?
Not a lot. Montario Hardesty.
No, not Hardesty. The other one that went out to catch the balls. Oh God, number 25, whatever. But Rice, even though he's a guy that they spell quite a bit, I just like him because he's a do-it-all type guy, and he's just electric. He finished last year in the top 4 for position.
Wow.
I don't really see him falling too much below that. And Trent going up to going up to the 3rd spot for you.
Fifth
spot. Is definitely something I could see happening. Trent's a guy that has the talent to. If he finished number 1, it wouldn't be some huge surprise for me. I want to see it one more year out of him, and still I'm a little worried about the offense there in Cleveland.
Yeah, for me, Ray Rice, there's the good and the bad with Ray Rice. The good that I like this year is they don't have many passing weapons. So that means 2 things. One, he's going to get more receptions out of the backfield just because they don't have Anquan Bolden anymore. They don't have those guys that they could really use anymore for catching the ball, and someone's got to pick up the slack. So that's the good. The bad is Bernard Pierce. Bernard Pierce looked really well in that relief role for Rice, and I can see Bernard Pierce getting more and more carries as it goes on throughout the year. And the idea of taking somebody third overall, your 3rd running back that, basically is going to, I'm not going to say split the carries, but is going to lose a majority to them to somebody else who's maybe not equally as talented, but did do very, very well. That scares me a little bit, whereas somebody like Richardson, we saw what he did last year. Yards, not so much there, but he had the touchdowns, and I think the yards issue had to deal with his rib injury, and I think, a healthy Richardson for a full year, he's going to get the yards that you'd expect, like Doug Martin last year, and the touchdowns are still going to be there because, let's face it, it's Cleveland. Who are they going to get the ball to? They have nobody to throw to. They have no one else to run the ball. It's the Trent Richardson show, and I think he's definitely going to be the guy for them. And I think the yards go up, and I think it's very easy that he cracks in the top 5. And like you said, I think it's not uncommon to think of him as a top 3 running back coming up this year. And like you said, no surprises if he finishes the year number 1 overall.
Ray Rice too. Pierce is definitely is a talented running back, but Ray Rice, he's still only 26 years old. He's one of the cornerstones of that franchise. I think a lot of times it's more just keeping him fresh than him really losing carries. So that's,
No, I hear you.
Pick one or the other. I think you've got a good pick there. It is interesting to see how we kind of almost did a complete flip-flop, but either guy, I think you're doing really well.
Yeah.
For sure.
Steven Jackson, the next guy on our list here we're going to talk about, he, there's been a lot about him this year. How is he going to do in Atlanta? More opportunity for touchdowns. Something he hasn't seen in his career is, that end zone very much. I got him at 14. You got him at a little bit higher at 10. So you seem to be very comfortable with him as your RB1 this year?
Yeah, low end for sure. The exciting thing, like you mentioned, he's finally on an offense that's going to move the ball. He's going to have a chance to score some touchdowns this year. I think he's no question going to be the goal line guy. He's a guy who can catch the ball. He's obviously not going to be, the workhorse, considering they have Jacquez Rodgers there. But I think he's going to get a good amount of work. He's not going to be, a 2-down back type guy. I think they'll kind of sprinkle in both in that regard. Still a lot of talent. Obviously, I've got him higher than anybody else in the rankings, so I guess I got a little bit of a man crush on him, but we've talked about this before. I think he's got it, and I'm excited to see him on an offense that's going to be able to move the ball and put up some points.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on Jackson. I think, obviously he's going to be better than years past. The only thing that scare me, not so much scare me, but the only things that kind of hinder me from popping him in as an RB1 is, they're still a passing team in Atlanta. They're still going to throw the ball a lot. Roddy White, Julio Jones, those aren't guys you're going to go away from. And then, like you said, sprinkle in a little bit of Jacquizz Rodgers. And I don't quite see him as a. I like him, but I don't like him as an RB1. As an RB2, I love him, and obviously the rankings show that with him at number 14. I'm not sure if I can crack him into my top 10 like you did. 2,700 touches in his career, definitely a lot of work under his belt. So you could break down two at any moment. Not that I think he's going to this year, because I think he's the guy that's always pushed through it. But that cliff is coming eventually, and it just, obviously I like him more than last year, but just I don't know about top 10 quite yet for me. Another surprising one for me, Reggie Bush. I hate Reggie Bush this year, and I don't know how many times I've said this or how many times I'm going to say it before and during the upcoming season. But I was very surprised to see that even with my hatred of Reggie Bush, you had him 6 spots lower than me. So you hate him more than me, which I found surprising. Tell me a little bit about that.
Like I mentioned last week, I think LaShore is going to kind of eat away at the touchdowns and goal line stuff, and a lot of the carries as well. They're going to be, I think, kind of split right down the middle as far as touches go. They're really going to kind of eat into each other, and that's a passing offense anyway. So I just, for me, I don't see either one of them being a huge deal this year. And you obviously kind of agree with me in the fact that you think it's going to be about a 50-50. You've got a marked one rank apart. I'm pretty close. They're within 5, but, I like LaShore a lot. A little bit of me thinks that he can be a feature back for sure, but Reggie's obviously been brought in to have some kind of role there, and I just don't like either one of them.
Yeah, I think we touched this on the last podcast. I think Reggie's going to be a better real-life running back than he is a fantasy quarterback. Running back. God, I'm doing it again like last week. Mikel LaShore, I think, is going to have a lot of work in the red zone, the touchdowns, the red zone work. So I don't think he's going away, and like you said, that's why I have Bush at 21 and LaShore at 22. I don't think LaShore is going away, and I don't think they're going to go away from LaShore. I think he's going to have a lot of carries this year, and I think Bush was brought in to be that receiving threat out of the backfield and probably be the between-the-20s type of guy. I don't feel the Reggie Bush love, and I'm very happy to finally see that other people are seeing that as well.
It's kind of neat to take a look at. Didn't even notice this before I did my rankings, but last year, Mikel LaShore being, I guess, the feature back, you would say, even though Joyke Bell got plenty of work. Mikel LaShore finished 19th overall at his position. Joyke Bell finished 24th. So you being 21, 22 there on the two Detroit running backs looks actually pretty close to what they did last year. And I think Joyke's going to really... I think Reggie's going to have a lot of that role that Joyke had last year and probably perform a little better.
He's going to have all of Joyke's role.
Yep.
And then the other thing, too, was Mikel LaShore last year missed 2 games at the beginning of the year because of suspension.
Yep.
So he probably would have been a lot higher than 19 had he played the whole year.
Right.
It looks like the rankings are pretty dead on for them.
Maybe
again, I just don't...
move up a little closer to where you are.
I don't get the Reggie Bush hype. I'm staying away from him, and I will draft LaShore in more leagues than I'll have Bush. That's for sure. But going on here a little bit more, Chris Ivory. I was surprised that Chris Ivory broke your top 20. Talk about that a little bit for me.
I'm way up on him.
Yeah, you are.
From the little bit you see from him, and it's tough to really judge. You get a guy who doesn't get a ton of work. You see him when he's fresh. When he gets in for his few carries a game, he's always rip-roaring, ready to go. So I'm basing it off of that. I'm hoping that's kind of what he's going to give you. But he runs like an animal. He's got a career average of, I think, 5 yards a carry. And he's going to be the guy there. I think Mike Goodson's going to be kind of the complement to him, a little bit quicker kind of guy. I think he's going to be the bell cow. And I'm just...
And you're not afraid of Powell either, are you?
No, I'm not. Powell's not a guy even.
Powell's not going to be the touchdown guy like he was last year?
No. Chris Ivory is an animal. He's going to get every goal line carry. So I think, looking at it here, I've got him 19, you've got him 27, 28 football Duke, and 32 counselor. I'm making a little bit of a statement here, top 20 Chris Ivory. It's really if he can stay healthy for me, I think.
You are making a huge statement. I almost want to make a bet on this. I got to find a guy that I got lower in the rankings that I think will. I mean, obviously, I let's see here. Let's do Ivory. Who do I think? I almost want to say Le'Veon Bell, but I'm kind of worried because I think with Bell, I honestly, for some reason, I have this feeling the Steelers are going to sign Ahmad Bradshaw. I think they brought Bradshaw in and they're waiting to release Cologne until after June 1st. And then bring Bradshaw in. I think they kind of had that understanding, so I think Bradshaw is going to be in the mix there. Otherwise, I would say Bell, and I would make that bet with you because I want to take somebody real low in my rankings that I think will still beat Ivory. But let's see. I mean, I got Ivory 27. I guess they are all kind of in the mix there. Nothing crazy. If I said Ryan Matthews, that wouldn't be crazy. I guess there's no crazy ones there, but I'm just not seeing it. I think Powell's going to be in the mix. I think Goodson's going to be in the mix. I think it's going to be. And then we all come back to it's the Jets offense.
Yeah, that's true.
You want the guy in the Jets offense. Good luck with that. Have fun. I'll wave to you from the championship game. I don't see it, but another guy you really love, Rashard Mendenhall, and I think we talked about this a few podcasts ago. Kind of understood your Rashard Mendenhall love a little bit. But again, I don't see Ryan Williams going away.
I see Ryan Williams going away. He hasn't played a full season in football since his last year in college. I know he blew out his knee, I think it was. So he hasn't been able to put it together and put a season together and stay healthy.
You're banking on an injury. I'm
almost expecting an injury, yes, but even still, I think Mendenhall's going to be the guy there. I just think Williams has shown you he can't handle the load. He can be, a change of pace type guy, and maybe I'm wrong. Last year, if you talked to me, I do love Ryan Williams' talent, but I've just kind of given up on the fact that he's going to be able to stay healthy and sustain the hits that you get at the NFL level. So Rashard, coming off an off year, obviously, basically it's a forgotten season. He wants to prove himself and remind everybody why he was a top 10 running back. So I like Rashard this year. I love him. I think they made a great pick with Gordon, the guard, early in the first round, and then obviously we've got a quarterback there now finally. So
all right, so here's one. You got Mendenhall at 22. And you had LaShore at 32. I will take that bet. I will put 5 on LaShore over Mendenhall right now.
Oh yeah, all day, no problem with that one.
Boom, there it is. That's an easy $5. That's a Subway footlong right there for me. I appreciate that. It's a good little lunch later that I'm going to have at the end of the season. I'll look forward to that one. All right, so let's see here. We got the St. Louis running back trio, I guess we'll call it. Richardson, Stacy, and Pede. Kind of happy to see that you're with me on this one. You think Richardson is going to be the guy. You're not buying into the Zach Stacy love either. Isaiah Pede, I think, has got nothing going on. I think, there was talks about him wanting to quit football for some reason because he wasn't enjoying it or whatever the hell it was. I mean, he sounds like a guy that's just going to have all sorts of issues this year, and I want no part of, and I don't think the Rams really do either. So I guess for me it really comes down to Richardson versus Stacy, and for some reason I don't see Stacy putting in a full season as the guy, whereas Richardson I think could. And it looks like you agree with me there, and I'm pretty happy to see that. What do you think about those guys?
Yeah, I liked what I saw from Richardson last year, obviously in a compliment role. The question is going to be, can he handle being the guy? I think Stacy and him are going to be a good situation there. Pete is still in the mix, but even last year he couldn't beat out Richardson, who was drafted later than him. Obviously, we've got to keep an eye on this situation, see who really wins this during camp, during the preseason. But obviously, Daryl Richardson has the inside track. It's not like he's an old guy that they're looking to change the guard on.
No, they drafted him last year.
So it's going to be a nice competition. But just from watching Richardson last year, I like him, although I do like Stacy as well. And I think whoever wins the job there, if it's Richardson or Stacy, that's going to be the slot. Just kind of fill him right in. But, of course, we'll see how the season goes on.
Let's put it this way. If you know, let's not put names into this. If you know there's going to be a St. Louis running back that gets 15 touches a game, Where are you ranking him?
They may move up a little bit.
25?
Half of the
25
a lot of the,
range?
Yeah, I would say so. A lot of the reason why Richardson's down there where he is just because of the uncertainty. So it's tough to move him up in that regard. But yeah, if you preseason game 4s come out, this is who our starting running back's going to be. Stacy's in the role of the complement. Then yeah, I'll move him up for sure. I like Richardson a lot.
Definitely
he
not
can do it out of both too, out of the backfield and running the ball.
Yeah, and for me, I think even if you knew it was going to be one guy over the other, does he crack the top 20 for you? I say no.
No, definitely not. That offense is still.
I mean, I think Steven Jackson proved that over the years. I mean, even if you're the guy for St. Louis, even an elite guy like Steven Jackson, it's hard to crack that top 20. We're not
saying these guys are Steven Jackson.
No way,
by any means.
Nowhere near that. Speaking of guys nowhere near Steven Jackson, Mark Ingram. I have owned this guy in more leagues than I've ever really want to admit to. I have him at 42. You have him at 29. There's a big gap there. Talk to me about this a little bit.
A lot of reports saying this is the first time he's been healthy since he's been in the NFL. Ivory's gone. There's just one more guy to get out of the muddle up there in the backfield.
Yeah, but still Pierre Thomas and Darren Sproles.
Yeah, I understand. I think this is
they're a pass-first team.
This is going to be the year where Ingram. He showed me some signs last year, finally, from what he was back at Alabama when he was a Heisman Trophy winner. I think this is the year he takes the job and at least gets the 60 to 70% of the workload, and at a consistent pace. So that's why I've got him where he is. And that kind of offense is a lot of opportunity for scoring. So I've got him at 29. Looks like I'm not too far off of FF Counselor at 33. You've got him certainly quite a bit lower than me. What do you hate about him so much, just other than the fact that he's killed you from year to year waiting on your roster?
Here's my thing. I'm probably with you on he gets 60% of the carries.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Sean Payton is back this year. He is back with his man Drew Brees, his $20 million a year quarterback that he loves to throw the ball with. So 60% of 15 carries a game. I mean, you're talking 10 carries a game type of thing. I just, Pierre Thomas is still there. Even if Ingram gets a majority of the work, 60% of a small chunk is not very much at all.
Yep.
And when you're a guy like Mark Ingram grinding it out for 4 yards a carry, a 40-yard game every week, that's just not for me. Like I said, maybe it's just my bias of owning him these last 2 years and keep thinking, yep, he's going to break out this year. This is going to be his 800-yard, 10-touchdown year, and it just never comes, and he just keeps sitting on my bench and sitting on my bench and sitting on my bench some more, and maybe just my hatred is built up too much. But, I mean, for me, you got Andre Brown below him, and I think Andre Brown I would draft Andre Brown in way more leagues than Mark Ingram, because I don't think that Giants' backfield is as clear-cut as everybody thinks it is. And even if it is, I think Brown is the guy that gets the touchdowns there. I think, you know what, I would almost bet $5, again with you, that Brown will score more touchdowns than Mark Ingram. You have Brown below Ingram. Where do you have Brown here? Let's find this out here.
I have not Donald Brown, sorry. I have, where the hell is he?
Let's see.
Andre right there at 33.
You have him at 33. So yeah, you only have them 4 spots below, I guess.
Yeah.
So to give you credit, you do have them pretty close together. But I am taking Andre Brown over Mark Ingram in every one of my drafts.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ingram has a better chance to get the job than Brown does for me to be the guy, and it's most likely not going to happen in either case. But I think he has a better chance to be that guy.
Better chance of a small pie.
Yeah.
That's I mean, that's my 2 cents on that. All right, let's move on to wide receivers. Brandon Marshall, I was surprised to see that I had him at number 4, which by no means is terrible. I mean, the number 4 wide receiver, that's no knock on anybody. But I was surprised to see that I was the lowest on him. I was surprised to see that with, I got Calvin number 1, AJ number 2, Dez number 3, and Brandon Marshall number 4, and I was surprised to see I was the only one to have him at 4. In fact, Matt, you were the only one that had him at 3. Everybody else had him at 2.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? I guess my Brandon Marshall at 4 isn't as crazy as maybe Marshall at 2. What do you think about that?
I'm fine with it.
Another
year.
I think AJ Green at one point last year had a touchdown in 9 straight weeks.
Well, interestingly enough, Marshall did finish ahead of Green last year, as well as Bryant in the number 2 position. But
that's surprising to see.
Those guys are all. I mean, behind Calvin, those guys are all.
They're all
really close.
They're all in a
it's
tier
so
together.
hard to pick. I mean, when I was wide receivers, was one of the toughest spots for me, especially in this top 10. There's a ton of them out there that can really, I think if AJ Green, Brandon Marshall, Des Bryant, Demaryius Thomas, Julio Jones, Larry Fitzgerald finished number 1, I could see that happening. So it's tough. It's real tough. I don't think Brandon Marshall being 4, 2, 3 is a surprise at all. I think he's definitely in that elite category where you're looking to those guys as your clear-cut number 1 that you're going to put out there every day and be excited about.
Yeah, and I'm with you with, I think Green, Marshall, and Bryant are in that next tier.
Yeah.
And then I think it takes a little bit of a drop after that when you get into the Demaryius Thomases, Julio Jones, Larry Fitzes.
I disagree because for me,
You think they're in that group for you?
Des Bryant for me is, I got to see a little bit more from him. He definitely started to put it together last year for the first time, but again, you have a big injury concern with him, and really, like I said, you saw it for half a season last year where he really started to put it together, but maybe a little more than half the year he really started to put it together, and it could have been the year. That's finally what we all saw on the field finally in the box scores started to happen on a consistent basis. So he definitely could be. He did finish top 3 last year. He could be a guy that's going to compete with Calvin for number 1 again. But I just like a guy that's going to be a little bit more of a sure thing, and I think with Peyton Manning out there, Demaryius Thomas is just going to be. I'm just excited with Welker out there. There's just how are you going to focus?
There's a lot of balls to go. There's going to be a lot to go
that's
around.
All they're going to do is throw.
I don't think that's all they're going to do. I mean, Elway seems to like Monte Ball.
Yeah, that's true.
He said he sees Terrell Davis in him, and that's big praise coming from a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Monte Ball is going to get a ton of carries that he's going to magically be like a top 10 running back. But there's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of work that needs to go around for me. I see the potential, I guess, there, especially with a guy like Peyton Manning throwing you the ball. I mean, I have Thomas at 5, so I still have him, right in there with those guys. But for me, when I draft, if I draft a wide receiver this high, I want consistency, and I think that's why, like for me, this next guy, Julio Jones, I have him ranked at 9th. Whereas, we have one of our rankers that, has him as high as 4.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it just goes to a consistency thing. If I'm drafting, to get these wide receivers, you're drafting them in the 2nd, maybe the early 3rd. And for me, if you're drafting a wide receiver that high, I need a guy that's going to get me 10 to 15 points every week, money in the bank, not worried about it. Whereas I think Julio's the type of guy that's going to get you a 3 to 4 point one week and then a 22 point the next.
Yeah.
And I can't see having that type of inconsistency week to week from my top wide receiver.
Right. He's the torch still hasn't been passed. You can't forget Roddy White.
No, it's going to happen this year. It'll happen this year.
You think so? It probably will, but it still hasn't been passed yet. Roddy White is still there. Roddy White still finished ahead of Julio last year overall, and like you said, he's very boom or bust. He's about as boom or bust as it gets. Him and other guys too, like. Help me out with the name here. Vincent Jackson, he's another boom bust type guy.
Where I was going to say, he was one that you got him cracking the top 10. And again, I stay away from those guys that are boom or bust that early. It's just, maybe that's just my preference, I think. But yeah, I just, boom or bust, I can't do it that early.
It's just tough, though. Wide receivers, that's a position where they are sometimes very boom or bust,
No, I hear you. All right, next on the list, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Andre Johnson cracks your top 10. You were the only one that had him cracking your top 10. Me, I had him at 12. Actually, no, you had him at 12.
I had him
you had him outside the top 10, and we had him all in the top 10.
Yep.
What don't you like about Andre Johnson? Looking back on it, when I looked at it, I think he had 110 receptions last year.
He finished top 5.
He's still getting it done.
Yeah.
I know the injury concerns and the age concerns and all that other crap. as much as everybody wants to say injury concerns, he had how many receptions last year? I want to say it was like 110, 115. I mean, oh, he's old, he's injury. They run the. I mean, I even said it earlier. They run the ball. The guy is still performing. He's still getting it done. 112 receptions. I mean, he's still getting it done.
You know, it's pretty interesting, too. Here's how he finished out the season from week 11 on last year. 47, 27, 10, 17, 32, 16, 26. Not too bad.
No, not too bad.
So maybe
not too bad.
Maybe I am a little bit low on him. It looks like he got younger as last year went on. Jesus, how young is he going to be this year? You know, top 12 is just fine. I'm not
top
too
12
far
is still
off
good.
there.
I'm you know, obviously that's still good. I mean, I got him at 8. I got him ahead. Like I said, I got him ahead of Julio Jones.
Who do you want me to move ahead of him, though? So we've got Percy, Fitzgerald, Julio Jones, Vincent Jackson. Maybe Vincent Jackson. I could see me swapping those two guys.
All right, and I'm ahead of Roddy White.
Yeah?
I mean, I am putting him ahead of Roddy White.
Okay.
Especially with Julio coming in. I think this is either Julio overtakes Roddy, and where do I got Roddy? I still got Roddy at 11, so I still got him up there because he's been performing well every year and never gets hurt.
Yep.
But I think that's part of Roddy White's fantasy value is the fact that every year he doesn't get hurt.
There you are, nailing yourself out. Julio 9, Roddy 11.
I am not. You want to put a bet on it? We can. I mean, Roddy White for me, I think part of the problem with his fantasy value is the fact that he doesn't get hurt. So if he consistently puts in 8 and 9 point weeks, 16 weeks out of the year, that makes him look a lot better than guys that miss 2 or 3 games and still put up the same fantasy numbers.
Yeah.
I think that's part of Roddy White's game, and I think that's why every year you see him in the top 5 of fantasy
Still something to be
points
said
scored.
for that, though, the consistency.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked a lot about consistency, but I mean, my God, Sean Green last year he had 1,000 yards rushing last year, but he got 1,000 yards because he played 16 games. I mean, as part of that, I played enough, so I got to perform type of thing, and I don't know. I'm not with that at all. All right, moving on to let's look at the Green Bay wide receivers here. I mean, we got James Jones, we got Randall Cobb, we got Jordy Nelson. I mean, for me, and you can drastically see in my rankings.
Jesus.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
People are going to see this and just flip out. I have Jordy Nelson at 34. I think James Jones and Randall Cobb were the way to go last year. They were catching all the balls, and Jordy was the deep ball guy. And I don't know if they were, if defenses were focusing on him last year and just shutting him down, and maybe it'll change this year because of what James Jones and what Randall Cobb did. But I am way down on Jordy Nelson this year. And I'm pretty high on, I guess, James Jones and Randall Cobb, just because when you go back and look at it, they had a lot of receptions. They're getting a lot of touches, and that's going to equal fantasy points. I mean, looking at it, Randall Cobb, let's see here. You got Randall Cobb at 11, but then you have James Jones down at 28. So you actually have Jordy Nelson at 17. You have Jordy Nelson ahead of James Jones.
Yeah, for me, I think...
And for me, I'm with you on the touchdowns thing. James Jones, 14 touchdowns again. Not going to happen. I'd be surprised if he cracks double digits again. So I'm probably with you on what you're thinking with the touchdowns. But he was still getting the receptions, and I think that's why he's still high up there for me. And he's still a part of the Green Bay offense with Aaron Rodgers, so you got to love that.
Yeah, I think there's a reason that Jordy's ahead of James on the depth chart. They've both been there since they were rookies. They kind of know what they have with those two guys. I think this is the year Cobb kind of moves up into that featured guy role. I'm excited about what he's going to do this year. He's a guy with some big upside. Anybody in that offense is kind of a question mark because they have those three guys and a quarterback that likes to spread the ball around. You really can't pick who's going to be the big one this week.
It's the Patriots, and it's the Patriots syndrome, and I think it's going to be the same thing with the Denver Broncos this year. It's the Denver Broncos syndrome.
The thing I like about
three
Cobb,
guys, and you don't know who it's going to be.
The thing I like about Cobb, though, is really Green Bay took a page out of Minnesota's book with him last year in the way that Minnesota was using Percy. He was starting to get some balls out of the backfield, run the ball, little bubble screens. They find a way to get him the football, so he's always going to get his. I think there's going to be a big year for him this year. That's why I have him number one. And I think Jordy, like I said, he's been there just like James Jones since they were rookies. They know what they have. There's a reason he's ahead of him on the depth chart. I don't know if last year, was obviously the injury concerns, but I think he'll have a little bit of a bounce back here this year.
It's still just tough to choose between those three. I mean, all three of them.
For me, it's no question.
For me, it's Cobb is
number
number one. Yeah.
And then between the other two,
it's going to be tough week to week between those two guys. It's really just going to be. I think it's going to be more based on defensive matchups and which one's going to have the bigger week. It's just how the defensive plays them.
And I think too, a lot of times you could see, or this year you could see come week 3, maybe James Jones and Jordy have kind of just made the flop. You kind of see as the game plans go on who's the guy that's kind of getting the looks there out of those two the most.
So you're saying take the one out of the 3 that falls, because that'll be the bigger risk reward ratio. Like it'll be the bigger. There's less risk there and a chance for a bigger reward.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of either one of them, because there's plenty of people out there could value James Jones over Jordy Nelson. So,
all right,
or vice versa.
We got a guy here next that I know you have you're not going to draft in any of your leagues because you're tired of this guy, Hakeem Nicks. I know for you hate him because he always gets hurt.
He's always Hakeem Nicks. I like to call him. He's just always nicked up. You know what I mean? Like it's just.
For me, the talent is still there.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to say there's anything to the Victor Cruz kind of holdout that he's got going on with his tender and everything like that, but there might be. I mean, I'm not saying it, but I am. You know what I'm saying. There's that chance that something happens there, and I think when Nicks was healthy last year, Eli preferred him over Cruz. I got him at 13. I know that's higher than your 20, but I know you've been burned by him in the past. 20 seems to be pretty much, the consistent ranking with everybody else.
But I'll tell you what, if I can get him at 20, I'm excited.
Oh, yeah, I am too.
The upside of him at that spot is incredible. He's definitely, like you said, the talent's there. Manning likes him. There's no question there. Why wouldn't you? The guy can just make any kind of grab. He's one of those guys, you kind of put it anywhere near him, he can go up and get it and just take your breath away. But like you mentioned, I've just been burned by him too many times, too many injuries. He's a guy that you kind of want to rely on. You believe maybe you've got a number one there, and then it's just, I got to wait till next week, or he's hobbled up and can't and practice this week. Is he going to be ready? No, he's not. It's just too many injuries.
I was going to say I had him last year when I kept thinking that and kept holding on to him for weeks and weeks at a time.
Right.
Another guy that seemed to be banged up last year and I kept for weeks and weeks at a time thinking he'd be back, Pierre Garçon. I am really big on him this year. I think if Pierre's healthy and if RG3 is healthy, those two together, when they were healthy last year, I know it's a lot of ifs, but they did great things together, scoring lots of touchdowns, doing a lot. I remember that first week of the year, I was so happy when, 2 series in, Pierre Garçon, I think, had 4 catches for like 118 yards and a touchdown already, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to be a top 5 wide receiver this year. This is awesome. I got him as my wide receiver 3, I think it was. I am pumped for this guy. What do you think? You think he stays healthy?
In that regard, you're a lot like a plasma television that never got shut off. It's just burned into your brain, and that's what you're thinking of when you think of him. You love him. You always have. But for me,
no, I didn't like it.
He's never done. I mean, always have since last year. Yeah,
ever since last year. Yes.
Fell in love
the Colts. I was all set with that.
I'm just not. I haven't. He's never really done it. Sure, if you want to roll a dice and say this is going to be the year when his quarterback gets healthy, and if he can stay healthy, and if the stars can align and make a new planet. I mean, for me, I'm not a big fan of Pierre at all. Obviously, that's why I have him ranked where I did. Quite a big difference from you to I. But he's got a great quarterback there in Washington when he's healthy, and he does have some talent as far as he's got some breakaway speed. He can really open the field up for you. So put it together, and you did see flashes last year. I can see it happening, but obviously where I've got him ranked, I'm not too excited about it.
All right, I got one for you. I will put another bet on the board with this. Pierre Garçon is my number 22 wide receiver against your number 22 wide receiver, Antonio Brown. But as a little asterisk,
I would love that.
I want on a points per game, like which one will do better on a points per game thing, because there is that chance that Garçon gets hurt again.
Points per game.
Points per game.
Yeah.
I say Garçon. You say Antonio Brown.
I'm fine with that.
Am I going to win $10 at the end of the year off of this podcast? I think so.
Possible, but I highly doubt it.
All right.
Hey, one other one that we didn't didn't notice here, but let's talk about this Tavon Austin. Last year we made the bet top 25. I said he would be top 25 last week. Sorry.
Yeah.
Look at my ranking there. I've got him 24.
You held true to him. You held true to him.
Football Deuce got him at 40, and FF Council's got him on 46. I just wanted to put that out there so everyone can pat me on the back when the season's over.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. patting you on the back or slapping you on the back. I think there's a big difference there.
I'll be patting.
There's a history there of rookie wide receivers not making big impacts right off the bat.
Yep.
I mean, God, look at Justin Blackmon last year. Look at all those guys. You know, it just the only guys that ever made a big difference their first year were the AJ Greens and the Julio Jones. And I don't think Tavon Austin is an AJ Green or Julio Jones.
We'll see.
I think we can see a big difference.
I agree with you on that as far as what they offer, but we'll see.
A guy that I think is going to make a big leap this year, Denario Alexander. I am taking a huge leap on this one. I got him all the way up at wide receiver 17. I mean, you got him at 31. I think that's pretty much the consensus among our rankers. Talk me off the cliff. Am I crazy? Am I totally crazy?
Not at all. He put together an amazing end of the season last year, kind of coming out of nowhere. One of those stories, almost like what he was. Stuck in the shelves like Kurt Warner back in the day before they brought him in. It's an interesting situation at how he performed. Will he put it together, stay healthy, and keep up what he was doing? It's very possible. I think Philip Rivers having a bounce back year. I could definitely see it happening. I might be a little lower on him, and I'm actually a guy that reaped the benefits of him last year. He filled in as my wide receiver 2 and performed exceptionally well to end the year for me. I
think we've talked about it before in this podcast about, you know, he had the most touchdowns from the time that he started playing for the Chargers to the end of the year. He had only 2 guys had more touchdowns: Eric Decker and the other one escapes me now. I think it was Des Bryant was the other guy. But he just really turned it on the second half of last year. You know, there's always that injury concern with him. But like I said earlier, I think Philip Rivers turns it back on this year. I think Keenan Allen will be the starter on the other side of him, which will take some attention away. Mm-hmm. And I think if a healthy Antonio Gates is around, that'll help too. But he did great things last year. I'm just really big on him this year and everything that, you know, he basically fit that mold of Vincent Jackson, and I think that's why Philip Rivers was so enamored with him last year. Both 6'5" guys, Jackson 230. DX 215, so they're almost the same guy, and I think that's why he filled in so great with that. And I think this year during the offseason, you know, him and Phillip are going to get together and work on that deep ball that he used to have with Vincent Jackson. And I think that's where it's really going to come together for DX this year, and he's really going to, you know, take off.
You love him so much, you've even given him a nickname.
I have not given him that nickname. That nickname
they
is
use
out
that
there.
one out there?
Yeah, they
use that one out there. A nickname yet.
Catch up, Grandpa. Come on.
I don't think he deserves a nickname yet.
Yeah, he does. All right, let's see here. We got Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace is a guy opposite from DX. I had DX really high. You had him around the consensus. It looks like Mike Wallace is the type of guy that you have. Why you have Mike Wallace all the way at number 19.
The consensus is 25, so we're actually right down the middle. So,
touche.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a good year. It's going to be a bounce back season for him. He's healthy. He's in a situation where he's the man for sure. There's really nothing else there to throw the ball to that's produced at the NFL level at a high level. So the talent's there. I think he's bouncing back this year.
Here's my thing. Look up the stats for him last year real quick for me. I want to say that he had maybe 2 games last year of over 100 yards, and that's with Ben Roethlisberger throwing in the ball. This year he goes to Ryan Tannehill. Now, I understand what you're saying by he's the guy there, but I mean, look at last year. If you were the guy, I mean, Percy Harvin's a little bit of a tough example, but if you're the guy with Christian Ponder, is that anything? Not really. No. If you're the guy with Brandon Weeden, is that anything? Nope. So I don't think by saying that he's the guy for Miami immediately makes him a top 20 guy. Well, but share some numbers with me.
24 last year overall. That's missing the last game of the year, so maybe he would have jumped up to 22 or so.
At the beginning of the year, he had a good start. He started off with a couple of quick touchdowns with Roethlisberger. but then he quickly fell off.
Last year he had 64 receptions, 836 yards, and 8 touchdowns.
836, so couldn't even crack 100. Couldn't even crack 1,000.
Now, if I remember correctly, too, he was playing a little bit banged up.
Tell me how many 100-yard games he had. I'm going to say 2. I'm going to put the over-under at 2. What's your guess? You're going to take the over, the under on 2. You're going to say over?
Sure. Just to be different.
Over. You see, 2 100-yard games last year. I can't wait to see this.
He had 2.
He had 2 exactly.
Yep.
2. And how many games he playing last year? 14?
Yep.
Good.
No, 15.
15. 15 games. He cracked 100 yards twice as the guy with Ben Roethlisberger. He's going to do better than that with Ryan Tannehill?
He's a year developed. The only guy there. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, he was 24th last year, missing a game, so, Jesus,
with
19.
With Ben Roethlisberger. You're jumping him up 5 spots from where he was last year with Ryan Tannehill.
With some good other wide receivers, Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders,
That's not competing. That's
Heath Miller.
That's taking the attention away from him.
Maybe.
They're going to double and triple team this guy.
Got a young quarterback that's going to be looking to his number 1 guy. A lot of targets coming his way this year.
I really hope that you take him in our home league. Please do. I can't wait to laugh at you when he finished another 800-yard, 4-touchdown season or something.
You can
stupid.
play with Pierre Garçon, and we'll see how that goes.
If we didn't already make a Pierre Garçon bet, there would be a Pierre Garçon against Mike Wallace bet coming. That's for sure.
And then Greg Jennings.
Greg Jennings, your man love for Greg Jennings. He's a Viking now, so you love him, and that's all that is.
Listen to me, I'm a homer. I'm from New England. Anyway, so yeah, I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. I think we've pretty much well established that. I probably bring it up every single podcast so far. But great player. He's very consistent. Obviously, last year was a down season, one of the first he's had.
He was hurt a lot last year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Ponder needs to step up this year. This is going to be the year. This is going to be the year where if he doesn't perform, he's going to lose his job. The NFL obviously saw what Adrian Peterson did last year. It's amazing to me that Ponder can't produce a little more with a running back like that behind him. I think I could probably do what he's doing out there at least. But I'm going to say Ponder's going to take another step in his production. And Greg Jennings is obviously the man there. There's not much else in Minnesota. Yeah, Patterson's there now, but he's a rookie, and like you said, the production from rookie wide receivers is usually nothing to be amazed with. So just because he's in Minnesota now and with an awful quarterback, I don't think he falls all the way to 30 at the consensus that we have. So for me, I'm going to take Greg and be happy with it as my wide receiver number 2.
I was going to say, what do I have? I have him exactly at 30, so I'm right with the consensus right here.
Yep.
Right exactly with where we have him on average. I'm just not buying it. He's old. He showed last year he can't stay healthy. His quarterback got severely downgraded, going from Aaron Rodgers to Christian Ponder.
Yep.
I just don't see it. But going on tight ends, I was very happy to see you agreed with me on this one. Graham over Gronk. I was surprised that I had somebody else that agreed with me on this one. I just think, like I said, Sean Payton's back. Drew Brees is going to throw the ball a lot more. Obviously, Gronk's injury is worrying a lot of people, but to be honest with you, my ranking wasn't based on Gronk's injury. My ranking was based more on the fact that I think the Patriots, Brady is Brady, but I think he's not going to be as effective this year. And actually, I think my ranking showed that because I think I ranked Brady at number 5.
Yeah.
I think that Brady isn't going to be as effective this year, losing Welker and having to rely on the 2 tight ends and what will probably be a banged-up Amendola. So I was pretty happy to see that you agreed with me on Jimmy Graham over Gronk. What was your reasoning for it?
Well, it did have something to do with the injury there. I think Peyton being back in New Orleans is going to change that for Jimmy. I honestly think Jimmy's got more talent out of the 2 as far as being a receiver out of the tight end situation, not so much as a blocker, but he's a little more versatile, a little quicker. Really, though, take your pick. They're both going to be outstanding. Right now, Jimmy Graham's healthier, so I'm going with Jimmy Graham. It was a lot to do with the injury for me.
All right. We pretty much agree on a lot of our tight end rankings here, but Dennis Pitta was one that I got him at 6. The Football Duke has him at 6. FF Counselor, he's got him at 8. And you had him at 10. Talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, I know for me, I have him at 6 because Anquan Bolden's gone. Torrey Smith is going to take the deep stuff. Someone's got to catch the middle and underneath stuff. And I think that's Pitta, maybe a little bit of Ed Dixon, like we said earlier, maybe a little bit of Ray Rice out of the backfield. But someone's got to catch the ball. Someone needs to be the red zone target. For me, it's Pitta. Tell me why you got Pitta at 10.
Because I liked him less than the other.
You liked him less than the other 9 guys.
Yeah,
that's how that worked.
That's
a pretty good strategy.
My analysis there.
I like that. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Well, Pitta was so hit or miss last year. Here's a couple games you go. He started out great, 18, 14, 16. Wow, what do I have my hands on? Dennis Pitta, is he the best tight end in the league this year? So then he goes 0, 5, 7, 8, 5, 17, 1, 16, 2. He's just inconsistent, which tight ends are. But
where did he finish tight end rankings last year, though? Overall,
8.
Really?
Yes.
All right. So you think he does worse?
That's with a 31 in there. How many of those is he going to put up?
You think he'll do worse than last year, losing one of their top receivers?
I think Ed Dixon is going to get a little bit more into the game. Yeah, I mean, maybe not worse. I mean, 8 to 10, pretty close
Compare
there.
him.
Not that he's going to do worse. I think some other guys are going to do a little bit better.
I know they're close for you because you got Jared Cook at 8.
Yep.
But tell me, compare Dennis Pitta to Jared Cook for me, because I have Cook. I got Cook at 12. I mean, there's only so much hype built into this guy. For me, it's always hey, he's going to do great. He is the Jonathan Stewart of tight ends. He's that guy that every year everybody's like, yeah, this is his year, this is his year, this is his year, and it never ever happens. And he's reunited with Jeff Fisher, who, you know what, couldn't make it happen in Tennessee. Why is it changing in St. Louis?
He brought him in for a reason. I think I'm
because he's familiar with him. That's
beating
that's
on
what
the
it is
drum
for me.
again. Here is just like I have every year since he's been in the league. You see what he can do on the field and just think it's going to happen.
It's gonna happen,
but it hasn't. So I guess I'm trying to put a flag on him this year. I'm
telling you, he is the Jonathan Stewart of tight ends.
Yeah,
every year this is his year. And it just, for me, it just
I just
never
like
happens.
his upside, so that's why I'm going to him over Pitta. I don't see a lot of upside in Pitta. I do see a lot of upside in Cook, although it's more because of what I see him run and jump and things like that. You know, just his athletic ability, although production-wise,
he's got the skill set. It just Fisher has never utilized him correctly.
Yeah.
Jared Cook has the skills to be Rob Gronkowski-esque.
Oh, yeah.
And just has never been utilized like that and really needs to.
I think if you're talking skills, he's probably even got more skill than Rob Gronkowski.
That is possible.
As far as the way he's faster, he jumps higher, all those kind of things.
He has all the potential in the world, but I think it almost hurts him that he went back with Jeff Fisher, that, you know, Fisher just doesn't seem to utilize him the way he should. Maybe that changes a little bit in St. Louis because they need receivers. I mean, you know, Amendola's gone, Chris Givens is gone. You got Tavon Austin coming in, who's going to be hard to perform in his first year. And then you got Brian Quick, who really didn't show a lot last year. Lance Kendricks was basically a bust. I mean, so maybe from there is no other guy perspective, maybe he kind of does a little bit better, and maybe he has a 700-yard, 5-touchdown year. But I'm just not seeing the breakout and all the potential that everybody sees in him. But moving on, I mean, we got Fred Davis on here. There's a big gap between where you had Fred Davis and where I had Fred Davis. I'm honestly probably a little low on him and maybe need to bump him up.
Yeah, I'm a little high on him, I think.
But there was a point last year where RG3 never looked to him, and then all of a sudden started looking back to him again. And I don't know what the reasoning was, but he pretty much disappeared, I felt, the second half, like the middle part of last year. What do you got, Matt?
Well, he tore his Achilles. That's why he disappeared.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
Is that why he was hurt? No, but didn't he come back and play in some games and just not perform?
He missed the whole year. He tore his Achilles week 7. So he missed the rest of the season. Before that, he wasn't.
Wasn't he not targeted?
In the beginning of the season, the first couple games, you're correct on that. He was not targeted. He had 2 catches both those 2 first games. Then he had 7, 4, 5.
felt like
3, and then he got hurt against the Giants. So he was starting to come around. The numbers were starting to be there.
For some reason, I remembered him doing okay.
The
going away.
The thing I like about it is they did bring him back. He's kind of there on a deal where it's like, show me what you got. It's going to have to be a big year for him. He was coming off of the
pot suspension.
Yeah, the drug suspension, which I guess was marijuana. So it's going to be a year that he really needs to, put all the other shit aside and focus, play some football, show what you can do on the field. So I think 14 is a little high now, actually looking at it, but
these will all get adjusted over time. I mean, there's tons of time before the beginning of the year, and these are really early. Obviously, by no means are you having drafts right now. I hope. Maybe rookie drafts going on and that such now that the NFL draft is over, but hopefully you're not doing real drafts right now because that would just be crazy. There's so much stuff that still needs to happen and play out that hopefully you're not taking these rankings too seriously. But speaking about not taking the rankings too seriously, kickers. Do we need to go over kicker rankings?
Kickers.
Who cares?
I'm not going to waste my time. I got things to do.
Really, kickers is just. I know my buddy at the Kicker Monk on Twitter. He would kill me for this, but my God, throw a dart at the dartboard and hit a guy.
Yeah, ask the Kicker Monk what he thinks if you got a question about a kicker.
If you don't know him, at the Kicker Monk on Twitter, he knows everything about kickers. This guy devotes his life to kickers.
What is wrong with him?
I wrote on Friday. I did a follow Friday for him, and I said, hey, you gotta like kickers too. Somebody does, they're like fat chicks. Somebody's got to give them some love, I guess. I don't get it, but he does. So go check him out on Twitter. Defenses, hey, right now defenses. Usually by the 4th, 5th week of the year for me, you start to figure defenses out. Right now, it's a crapshoot. For me, I'm always playing the matchups anyway. Matt, I know you are too.
Yeah, I'm always looking to the waiver wire, trying to play the best matchup I can. Like you said, as the season goes on, you start to find the defenses that maybe you want to hold on to. But I'm not a guy that's going to hold on to a defense during their bye week and hold a roster from a potential wide receiver / running back that could, find a role because of an injury this week or whatever it may be. I drop them as I go, unless we're talking week 10 and I've got the number 1 defense. Maybe I try to figure that out. But
I was going to say, for me, the only 2 defenses that I think I would draft with the intention of maybe holding all year would be Seattle and San Francisco.
Yeah.
Those by far are 2 amazing
completely.
Defenses that you might draft. I will never own them in any leagues, only because I'm not going to draft these, any defense until my 2nd to last round.
Right.
Maybe if it's my 3rd to last round, that type of thing. Maybe if San Francisco and Seattle are somehow still there, I snatch them up.
And the thing too with defenses playing your matchup is even those weeks when you have the 49ers and say Green Bay comes to town, do you really want to play them against Green Bay?
Of course not.
So even when you have that great defense, it's still. There's not a week when you go, Brady's playing the Niners. I don't want to. You're going to play Brady. If you've got Brady, you're playing him.
Right.
And that's just an example. But with a defense, it's different. Yeah, I'm not going to play them against Green Bay Packers when they're coming to
I'm
town.
always a matchup guy when it comes to defenses, and I'm even the guy that takes it a step further, and I don't wait until that week to pick up my defense. If I tend to hold onto 2 defenses, and only because I'll play my defense 1 week, and then I'll look ahead and say, okay, next week, who has the easiest matchup? I'm picking them up the week before, so I don't have to battle with somebody else on the waiver wire for them. But really, defenses, crapshoot. Maybe the Kicker Monk has some theories on defenses as well. I don't know. But that's our rankings. Hopefully, they're going to all be up tonight. If not tonight, then tomorrow. Definitely got a lot of stuff that you'll see up on blindsidefootball.com with all these rankings, PPR rankings, dynasty rankings, standard scoring rankings. Just too many rankings right now for May. It's just a little crazy. Matt, what do you got? You got anything else going on?
No, not really. No, I think we're about wrapping it up.
All right. I guess that does it for the show this week. Thanks for listening in again. Make sure to follow Matt at Matt Dugal on Twitter. Give me a follow at Marcus Katkin, and obviously, follow Blindside Football on Twitter at Blindside FTBALL. That's FT Ball. Check out the rankings, blindsidefootball.com, and thanks for listening in, guys.
Get some questions in too. We like answering questions on air. If you guys got anything, shoot us a message on Twitter. We'll be making sure to answer those for you. Marcus, what's the hashtag for that?
Blindside Pod. Send those questions,
Pod.
guys.
All right.